G'day guys, welcome. It's been a long time between videos. I've taken a little bit of a rest, a bit laying low for a while, but with less than 2 weeks to go before the 2021 national draft, I started to think about that, and I will do a preview of that closer to the date, which won't be that long away. But this video, I really wanted to reflect on last year, and what we did last year, in particular with our first pick. It was the first time in such a long time that we didn't have a first round draft pick. We ended up, our first pick was pick 37. And I suppose to put this in context, and a lot of this is hindsight at this stage, I felt myself really quite heavily, and in the end, quite emotionally invested in what we were going to do with that pick 37. And as I said, to put this in context, if you're new to the channel, last year on October the 21st, I put a video together, quite a long video, which I'll put in the description below so you can go back and have a look at it. It was called Draft Smokey. It was well before the national draft, And generally I don't really have a big opinion when it comes to the national draft, just because I don't watch, outside of Carlton, I don't watch a lot of football. I don't go and watch the under-18 competition. I mean, if the Western Jets are playing at my local football ground, which is Tuneside Park here in Werribee, I might go wander down and have a look. But I don't watch the under-18 competition. Maybe watch a little bit of the Nationals if it's on Fox Footy. So I'm not going to pretend to be a draft expert like some will, which I find quite funny. So I'd rather leave that up to the actual people who go and watch a lot of football, a lot of under-18s football, a lot of VFL football, and that's their job. Okay, that's their job. So the reason why I was invested last year is because there was no VFL football, and really we're only watching Carlton play last year because of COVID. I found myself absorbed with the SANFL, the South Australian Football League, which was really not affected at all by COVID last year, and it pretty much went to schedule. And you could watch it online. And I found myself watching Woodville West Torrens because they were, towards the top of the ladder, ended up winning the premiership. And I really liked the look of this small forward, this podgy little, didn't look like a footballer, little guy running around in the forward half, 173 centimetre, 21-year-old mature age recruit, James Rowe, or not recruit, but a player called James Rowe. And I liked him. I did a bit of research on him. The name rang a bell. Ended up finding out that he was the son of Stephen Rowe, who's a broadcaster, a football commentator in South Australia. Played some games with the Adelaide Crows. He played for the under-18 national championships for South Australia, who he represented. Was overlooked in his draft year, but he was a star in the SANFL. He was a star. Kicked 84 goals across 34 games. And the year I was watching him on TV, playing for Woodville West Torrens in 2020, he was the leading goal kicker, which is great. I mean, that's huge to be the leading goal kicker as a small forward, 173 centimetres. He dominated. And then in the final series, he bagged 4 goals and ran rings around South Adelaide, kicked 5 in the prelim, and then was really good again in the grand final on the Adelaide Oval in the Eagles' huge win over North Adelaide. And I just thought then and there that I gravitated to him. I really did. I gravitated to him. He was cheeky, skillful, good on both sides of the body, footy, just had the footy smarts, the footy smarts, generally or consistently impacted the scoreboard, which I liked. Great evasive skills, very good kick inside forward 50. And because he was a little bit overweight, I just thought, get a pre-season into him, harden that body. I think he was ready-made to play AFL football just because he was so clever. I suppose the big knock on him, just watching him, and then I suppose reading about him in the past and why he may have been overlooked in his draft year, was obviously his size and the fact he didn't really have a defensive side to his game. But it's an area that you can work on, okay? You can work on the defensive side of your game. And I think he showed this year for the Adelaide Crows at James Rowe, okay? He's not, I wouldn't call him a ferocious tackler by any stretch of the imagination, but he did work on that side of his game and he wasn't too bad. But we were in need of a small forward last year. And it's an area that we really haven't put a lot of time and effort into. We got Eddie Betts back to the football club. It just seems we've ignored the small forward. Okay, and I just think having picked 37 in the draft, I wanted Nick Austin to take a punt on this kid, James Rowe, mature age recruit, pre-season under his belt. He was ready to go round one. Now, the facts are, we will never know unless you spoke to Nick Austin personally, and it doesn't really matter now, but we will never know if Austin was really interested in James Rowe. I think there probably was some interest, but we decided in the end to take another small forward, exactly the same size, 173 centimetres, another player out of South Australia, but this time we took Corey Durden, 3 years younger, 18-year-old from Central Districts, who, by the way, played senior football at 16 years of age for Central Districts, which is a fair effort in itself. And he was on the radar. Corey Durden was probably the standout small forward in last year's draft, okay, in regards to being an 18-year-old. So it was really not a huge surprise that we ended up taking Corey Durden with pick 37. The thing is, the Crows then, they had pick 38 and then they swooped on James Rowe with pick 38. We then had pick 41, okay, which we took Jack Carroll. If the Crows didn't take Rowe at pick 38, would we have taken Rowe at pick 41? No, I highly doubt it, that we would have taken two small forwards, with pick 37 and 41. So we obviously wanted Durdin. We wanted Durdin, and the Crows were really happy to get their man, James Rowe. Okay, and what I've read since, Rowe being a mad Adelaide Crows supporter, his dad played there, he wanted to stay home. I don't know whether that influenced Nick Austin at the time, that James Rowe was really keen to stay in South Australia. And Corey Durden, on the other hand, as an 18-year-old, was really keen to get out of South Australia. And I don't know whether that had any influence and impact on Nick Austin, okay? 12 months down the track, and it's a small sample size. And this isn't really picking holes, okay, and saying he's better than him. It's just a reflection, okay? And as I said, I wanted Rowe. Okay, and I got my feelings hurt. I got my feelings hurt at the time, and I even sort of stupidly said, I'm going to go for Adelaide now because I like James Rowe that much. All right, and early on in the year, James Rowe made his debut. Debuted in round one for the Adelaide Crows. And within a month, okay, he was setting alight the Adelaide Oval. And the Crows were playing really good football. And James Rowe was kicking goals. Again, this made me happy. It really did. It really did. I told you so. We should have taken him. And if you look on the numbers, James Rowe is clearly in front. Okay, but he is 3 years older, a little bit more experienced. And he was ready to go. 19 games, kicked 15 goals, 11. Fifth in the Adelaide goal kicking behind Walker, McAdam, Fogarty and Thilthorpe. And kicked 2 goals on more than 4 occasions, and a relatively a good accumulator for a small forward, averaging 14 disposals. And his tackling, okay, wasn't too bad. 2 tackles a game, not great, but his inside tackling was adequate, okay, at AFL level. Is he a ferocious small forward? Okay, probably not. all right? But I think it was an above average, okay, first year for a small forward. Okay, those numbers, if you're looking at them from James Rowe, and I reckon Adelaide would be very, very happy with what they got out of James Rowe. Okay, for me, what I expected from James Rowe. First month, I'm going, wow. Okay, so kicking some really lovely goals, cheeky, just great. But his form did taper. Did he get tired? Okay, who knows? It's going to be interesting to see how James Rowe develops. For me, though, in the end, I think it was a little bit underwhelming from my expectations of James Rowe. I didn't think he was going to dominate, but I just thought we'd see a little bit more from him. In the end, and it's only one season, I just think that James Rowe lacks some genuine wow factor as a small forward. Okay, some wow factor. So let's get to Corey Durden. We'll just leave James Rowe there for a second. Now, Corey Durden, who we took with pick 37. We know his VFL form wasn't great, and that was interrupted by COVID in the end. He had a hamstring injury, but I don't think he would have kicked more than half a dozen goals at VFL level. In fact, he didn't win a lot of the pill at VFL level. And I don't think he would have made a debut, okay, at all. He wouldn't have made a debut at all if we were really genuinely pushing for finals football. But in the end, we gave him 2 games at the end. Was it good to see him put the jumper on and play 2 games? Of course it was. Okay, so he played the final 2 games of the year off the back of some, wouldn't say an underwhelming VFL form, but he didn't set the world on fire. But there was, if you watched highlights of his VFL and some of the games that were televised, there was something about Corey Durden that stood out. Okay, there was something about him that stood out. And that was definitely his tenacity and his willingness to hit bodies as an 18-year-old. And this was completely different. This is completely different to James Rowe. And this is something James Rowe doesn't do. Okay? So we knew Durdin's strengths. Quick, explosive, and very good below his knees. So far, we haven't seen, I suppose, the offensive side of his game. Okay, we haven't seen that. All right, in the 2 games he's so far, hasn't won a lot of the football. I think he may have kicked his first goal in the last game against GWS Giants. All right, but I think we've probably seen his biggest asset so far, and this is for me wow factor. This is wow factor that James Rowe doesn't have. And although Rowe is clearly in front in regards to numbers, this 18-year-old loves to hit bodies. And I'm talking about Corey Durden. He has a tenacity and this quiet demeanour and aggression about him that James Rowe doesn't have. And I don't think James Rowe will ever have. I describe Durdin as an eyes in the back of your head type small forward. And what I mean by that is if you are a defender and you have ball in hand, you are very worried and very weary if Corey Durden is anywhere near your vicinity. And he sort of reminds me, this type of impact reminds me sort of what Anthony McDonald, Tip and Woody does for Essendon. He puts the fear of life into opposition defenders because you need to have eyes in the back of your head. And it's that aggression and that tenacity to hit bodies, to hit them hard with explosive pace and vigour and aggression. And it's not in your face aggression. It's contest. It's pure football contest aggression. As I said, we haven't really seen the offensive part of Durdin's game, and he'll need to add the next layer. He'll definitely need to add that next layer. 1, winning the ball. 2, hitting the scoreboard. But at just 18, 19 years of age, to show that willingness to genuinely hunt the opposition. And I mean genuinely. I don't think it's contrived. I don't think Durdin's coming and going, oh, this is what I need to do. I need to hit body. I just think he has this innate ability to want to do it. It's just in him. And this ferocity is something very unique, very unique. And I don't think a lot of players have it. I mentioned Anthony McDonald, Tip and Woody. And we definitely, I don't think we have anyone at Carlton who genuinely has this other than maybe Liam Stocker. But Liam Stocker ain't no small forward. So this is what I reckon. I'm wrapped. In fact, this is why you need to follow. This is why these recruiters and list managers are paid the big bucks. And it's 12 months. It's 12 months. But I think Nick Austin got this right. He got this right. Whether Durdin goes on to play 200 games and becomes a great player for the Carlton Football Club, we don't know. But he got this one right for what we need. And if he is fit and he has a good pre-season and stays fit, Corey Durden for me plays round one against the Tigers. In fact, given his skill set, and that skill set, and I said he needs to add that next layer to his game, and I hope it doesn't go the other way, that they go, we need you to kick more goals and we need you to, start to accumulate some possessions, and then he starts to not have that willingness to hunt the opposition. But if push comes to shove, and we have to make a choice, and I don't think we will, because I think we'll play both Zach Fisher. I think we can play two small forwards, because I think Fisher and Durdin are completely different. But if push comes to shove and we had to choose, round one, if we had to choose between Zach Fisher and Corey Durden as that deep small forward, I am picking Durdin because of that skill set. Because of that skill set, of that ferocity and tenacity to hunt the opposition. Okay, 12 months down the track, time will only tell whether Austin made the right call. But I have Durdin in front of James Rowe. What do you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Put them in the comments below. Speak soon.